Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Captain's Table. I am your host, Captain B-Nard, and topic of discussion today is going to be the BHDL4, a complete review and reaction to the entire season. This is, of course, the traditional post-season analysis here in the Battle Hub Draft League, this time focusing in on Season 4. I'm going to do this pretty much the same way I always do, although it may be slightly less detailed this time, just because this season we had the captain's recaps, which were weekly in-depth analysis of the season. So I might have a little less to say in this post-season analysis this time around. But other than that, it's pretty much business as usual. We're going to go ahead and kind of reflect on the season as a whole, the highlights, the lowlights, that kind of thing, and just overall general reaction to the season, and then of course what's next for the captain here on YouTube as always. Yeah, having said all of that, we'll go ahead and get started. For those of you who don't know this, which I assume is no one, I assume everyone taking the time to watch this probably followed my journey throughout the BHDL4. But of course, we did finish the season here with an 8-3 record once again, which once again was enough to land us as a semifinalist, finishing the tournament as a semifinalist. This time, technically, ending up in fourth place, as for the first time ever, we actually ended up losing to the coach who did not win in the finals. Of course, we were eliminated in the semifinals by Raymond, and of course, the inevitable winner of this tournament would be Scorpion. A big congratulations to him for that, of course. And so, yeah, that will land us technically in fourth place here as a semifinalist. So, as far as record is concerned, this is almost business as usual here for the Philadelphia Pidgeys, because this is the fourth time we've participated in the Battle Hub Draft League, and out of all four seasons, we've finished as a semifinalist in three of them. So that is a pretty solid record. I'm pretty happy to hang my hat on that as of now. Obviously, would have liked to do a little bit better this time, which we'll get into as the video goes on. But still, overall, very happy to have that level of consistency here in this highly competitive draft league. Happy to have been able to achieve that again. The 8-3 record is something that we've achieved once before, I believe, here in the BHDL, and I think twice before in draft leagues, as I believe this is the end of our ninth draft league here on YouTube over the years. So definitely very happy to still be performing at that level. Yeah, overall, relatively positive feelings about all of that. But yeah, having said that, we are going to go ahead and move along into looking at Pokemon stats for this season. This graph right here, you can see, is going to detail all of our Pokemon throughout the season here in the BHDL4. We did not make any transactions this season, so the team consisted of the same 10 Pokemon the whole season. However, we did make a couple of Terra transactions throughout the season. So I believe it was post week 4 and post week 6, I want to say. Although we actually technically didn't even change our Terra captain. We basically just played around with the Terra types on Mudsdale, our second Terra captain there on the list. And so I didn't really feel the need to make like separate breakdowns for the team, as the team changed over the seasons, as I've done in, previous seasons, where I kind of do if I make any significant changes. Certainly, if I change any Pokemon on the team, I will kind of enumerate like how each rendition of the team did in the season. But because all I did was change Terra types on Mudsdale this whole season. Those were technically the only transactions that the Pidgeys made this season. I didn't really feel the need to split that up. But yeah, so on the screen here is the BHDL4 Philadelphia Pidgeys and how they performed this season. So going in order of how many games each Pokemon saw. So of course, at the top of the list, we are going to have our Sneasler having and of course, the Gudra having both made 10 appearances. Now, we did end up playing exactly 10 games this season, just due to the fact that there was a forfeit in there and we made it to the semifinals. So 10 is going to be the top number of games that any Pokemon could have come to for us this season. And so, as you can see, Sneasler and Gudra both made it to all 10 games this season. Not really surprising, given Sneasler, once again, our number one draft pick, kind of the anchor Pokemon of the team. Of course, as I have stated before, and I do believe, um, usually your first Pokemon that you draft on any given draft league team should be something that you can kind of build the whole team around. It should be something that you can count on to be like a kill leader, your premier threat, that kind of thing. So definitely no surprise Sneasler came to every game. And then, of course, with Gudra being pretty much our top Terra captain and a personal favorite of mine, definitely no surprise that that thing has come to every game. Of course, the team captain of the Philadelphia Pidgeys here, of course, appearing on every single one of my draft league teams. So, but after that, we have Rotom Wash that did appear in 9 out of 10 of our games that we played this season, and so yeah, that thing came to basically every game. So those were kind of like the pillars of the team, really. All three of those Pokemon came to just about, if not every game this season. Um, as you can see in the case of Sneasler, obviously a very high KDR. The numbers on the screen, of course, as I failed to mention, the first number that you will see next to each Pokemon is going to be the amount of games they came to. Second number is going to be how many kills that Pokemon had. Third number is going to be how many times that Pokemon was itself knocked out. And then the last number is basically going to be the KDR, or, the differential between how many Pokemon it killed versus how many times it was knocked out. So, but yeah, obviously, as you would expect, Sneasler with a massively positive KDR, as is its job. Gudra and Rotom, not so much. They're a little bit negative, almost breaking even, but not quite, which is a little bit of a letdown. But at the same time, those Pokemon are tanky. They're walls. They're support, even though they can hit hard as well. So not terrible. But after that, then we are going to have a bunch of Pokemon. We jump all the way down to Scissor, that came to 6 out of 10 games, and Mudsdale, of course, also came to 6 out of 10 games. Both of those Pokemon essentially breaking even in the KDR. No surprise there, as those Pokemon, again, sort of form the larger defensive core that has come to be a staple of the Philadelphia Pidgeys here, not just this season, but also last season, as has been gone over at length. As you guys will know, this team is not super different from the BHDL4 Philadelphia Pidgeys. Definitely some key differences, but a lot of similarities. But yeah, after that, then we have Indeedee. That's Indeedee Male specifically, that came to 5 out of 10 games. Pretty positive KDR, actually, there for Indeedee. Did actually perform quite well. Came to exactly half of the games that we played, so that was definitely big positive there. And then, of course, after that, we have our Grimmsnarl, our Hisuian Arcanine, and our Azelf that all came to 4 out of 10 games, with kind of varying KDRs, some on the little bit of a positive side, some on the little bit of a negative side. And then finally, of course, we have the Drifblim that came to exactly 2 out of 10 games, and then had a couple of in the negatives column. The only Pokemon on the draft this season to actually not score a kill for the entire season there. So, overall, the numbers are what they are here. I don't really have too much to say about it. I guess we'll get into that a little bit more when we come to the next slide. But overall, There were a couple of surprises here for me. Nothing super drastic though. The couple of Pokemon that kind of surpassed my expectations, and a couple that did not quite meet the expectations. But overall, nothing super shocking or crazy here. Sneasler was one of the top kill leaders in the league once again here. Not quite at the top, but one of the best KDRs as well in the league once again here. So definitely proving its worth as one of the premier Pokemon in the league. So, but yeah, other than that, not too much else to say about it. Just numbers pretty straightforward. But yeah, moving along. That is going to bring us to the Pokemon Awards. So, of course, we're going to give the same ones out. We have two positive and two negative for the team this season here. And so, of course, the first positive one is going to be the team MVP. And after very little consideration, as you can certainly tell from the previous slide, as well as this slide, um, the Philadelphia Pidgeys MVP for the BHDL4 has to be Sneasler once again, second season in a row. We've drafted it, second season in a row that it was the team MVP. So, pretty straightforward as to why. Like I said, Sneasler is one of the premier threats in Draft League, premier high point value Pokemon, definitely a premier threat in competitive Pokemon in Generation 9, generally speaking. And yeah, like I said, usually when you create a Draft League team, your first pick should be something that you can kind of build the team around, something that you can rely on to be like a kill leader, an MVP. Something that can exert a lot of pressure on your opponent's teams. And yeah, Sneasler obviously checks all those boxes. It definitely, for the second season in a row, came up big for the Philadelphia Pidgeys. I've really quite grown to like Sneasler a lot as a Pokemon, I will say, on a personal note. Um, when I first drafted Sneasler back in the BHDL3, I hadn't used it too much prior to that, just a little bit in Generation 9. I hadn't used it at all prior to that, obviously, since I didn't play Legends Arceus. But using it in Draft League really has made this Pokemon grow on me even more. I always kind of liked it, but I really do like it a lot as a Pokemon since these last two seasons here in Draft League. And as a side note, for those of you who watched the semifinals game, this is just kind of like a very, very slight, minor side note. But at the end of that game, of course, we were down to Sneasler versus I think three of my opponent's Pokemon, and we were able to get a crit U-turn on the Latios and knock it out, which was, as I said, Sneasler's last-ditch effort of spitting in the opponent's face before it died. So little stuff like that just kind of it's stuff I take note of, I will say, and I get it's just RNG and it's a roll or whatever, but little stuff like that, I guess, kind of makes you take more of a shine or less of a shine to certain Pokemon, and definitely after two solid seasons of high performance, Sneasler is definitely a Pokemon I hold in very high regard. Um, so definitely, hands down, has to be the MVP this season again. So, but yeah, other positive Pokemon award here is going to be for the Pokemon on the team this season that exceeded my expectations, and I did put quite a bit of thought into this one actually, but ultimately I came to the decision that this award has to go to Indeedee Male. So. The reason I say that is because when I drafted Indeedee Male, my thought process was I really wanted to get more of a premier terrain setter because usually we always have a terrain setter here in the BHDL. I think 3 out of 4 seasons we've had at least one terrain setter on the team with an unburdened strategy. Obviously, the last 2 seasons it's been with the Sneasler. But I've never had an Indeedee or anything with psychic terrain. So I wanted to give it a shot, and really, when I drafted it, all I was kind of hoping for out of it was just something that would reliably set the psychic terrain, something that would perhaps maybe deal out some damage to some Pokemon if I needed it to. And that's pretty much it. I wasn't really expecting a whole lot more from Indeedee than that. And I gotta say, Indeedee definitely surpassed my expectations for what it could do. Um, I will say this: it hits so hard with a expanding force in the psychic terrain. Just hits stupidly hard, like way more than I thought. It does way more damage than I thought it would, to so many different Pokemon. So um, Indeedee definitely proved its worth. Also, with the Choice Scarf variant, which is something that I used quite a bit this season, was able to catch people off guard and get either revenge kills or just a kill generally speaking. Um, so yeah, Indeedee really put in work this season beyond just setting the psychic terrain because, quite honestly, this season I didn't run with the unburdened set on Sneasler all that much, um, which I'll get into a little bit later, I believe, but primarily just because I didn't think that the unburdened set had a good match a lot of the weeks. Um, but even without the unburdened set, Indeedee really just put a lot of work in with that psychic terrain, firing off, like I said, those expanding forces that just deal stupid amounts of damage. But even I will say, even the weeks that I didn't bring a choice set on Indeedee and tried to max it out with some bulk, it actually has not terrible bulk, honestly. I know Indeedee female is the bulkier of the two, but Indeedee male is actually not terrible as far as bulk is concerned. It actually has, if you put some investment into it, it has enough bulk that it can live a hit. So definitely not quite a glass cannon, although it does hit very hard, or can hit very hard. Um, so yeah, like I said, definitely Indeedee male definitely exceeded my expectations this season. So I have to give the hat tip to it for that. But on the flip side of the coin, of course, we do have the negative Pokemon awards to give out here, and the first one of those we're going to give out is the Pokemon that underperformed this season. And once again, I had to think about this one a little bit, but I ultimately came to the conclusion that the Pokemon that fits this bill best has to, unfortunately, be the Hisuian Arcanine. So, um, Hisuian Arcanine, very similarly to standard Arcanine, certainly has its drawbacks, especially in competitive play. They're both very solid Pokemon, don't get me wrong, and as you guys will remember, I've drafted regular Arcanine quite a few times in Draft League, but also in the specifically in the BHDL in past seasons. And while it has done well, sometimes, other times, not so much. So Hisuian Arcanine is an interesting one because rather than being a pure fire type, obviously it's a dual type fire rock. And that, I would say, actually gives it almost, I want to say it gives it almost as many drawbacks as it does positives. So on the positive side, the dual fire rock typing does actually gain some pretty at certain times valuable resistances because of being part rock. But on the flip side, it gains some pretty awful weaknesses and double weaknesses being part rock as well. Um, Additionally, I would say it also has better, in a way, better coverage with the head smash and the rock head ability, the head smash move, obviously. Certainly, Hisuian Arcanine can hit so hard, and it has a little bit of a different stat distribution than the regular Arcanine does, which I believe it's a little bit bulkier and has a little more physical attack to it. So um, definitely, all in all, I would say maybe a little bit better of a Pokemon than the original Arcanine. Um, Specifically because this season neither of them could Terra. I know in the past, when I drafted Arcanine, it actually was able to be a Terra captain, but because of the rule changes this season, it was not able to be. So if you just look at both of them next to each other and neither of them can Terra, then yeah, I think Hisuian Arcanine's a little bit better. But yeah, unfortunately, despite coming to almost half of our games this season, Hisuian Arcanine really did not uh, achieve quite what I wanted it to. It did not really. I wasn't really able to get it in a position to really accomplish what I wanted it to. There were a couple of games, a couple of scenarios where it kind of popped off, but it never really just kind of ran away like I wanted it to in any of the games that I brought it to. And then, of course, another reason for it being stuck here, and this kind of goes similarly with but similarly, but for a different reason. where I was talking about Sneasler a little bit earlier, and how certain things that happen with a Pokemon just kind of make you like it a little more. Well, in the same sense, certain things that happen with certain Pokemon kind of make you like them a little bit less. And I'm sure you all know where I'm going with this. Of course, the fact that Hisuian Arcanine had to miss the head smash in our semifinals match against Ray, which definitely cost us big. Um, but yeah, stuff like that, just combined with the fact that I couldn't really get Hisuian Arcanine to really pop off like it can, like I know it can, like it's supposed to be able to. And so yeah, it definitely didn't quite um, live up to what I thought it would be. But yeah, that is going to go ahead and feed us into our LVP for the season. And as you can see here, with very little thought, I went ahead and knew I had to assign uh, this title this season to Drifblim. So this was kind of a no-brainer, just due to the fact that Drifblim only came to 2 games this season. And while I am happy that I was able to bring every Pokemon on my team on the draft to at least 2 games, um, Drifblim honestly fell pretty flat in both games that I brought it to. It did basically nothing, and then just died. So, so yeah, unfortunately, Drifblim is one of those Pokemon that it has a lot of weaknesses, and the weaknesses that it have are very common offensive typing. They're very easily exploited. It's got decent bulk to it, but like it can't really take more than like one super effective hit, if that, depending on where it's coming from. Even with bulk investment. So it has okay bulk, but not it's not bulky enough to take a lot of hits anyway. It doesn't hit super hard either, unfortunately. Basically, when I drafted Drifblim, right, um, the main reason that I drafted Drifblim when I did, well, I guess 2 reasons were: one, I really wanted a ghost type on the team because in seasons past I've either had no ghost type or kind of a suboptimal ghost type. And while Drifblim isn't the most optimal ghost type in the world, I felt like maybe it would be a little more optimal than some other options. But the main reason I drafted it was to have a second form of hazard removal because in seasons past I've only ran with one hazard remover on my team, and a lot of times that didn't work out very well for me. So I thought, I want to have a secondary hazard removal option if I need it. And so that was the primary reason I drafted Drifblim, because it of course gets defog. You can also do some other cool stuff with it. I mean, Drifblim is not a bad Pokemon by any stretch of the imagination. Don't get me wrong; it's got great utility. It's got decent enough bulk. It could also hit, kind of hard sometimes, depending on how you build it. Um, but in Draft League, like I said, it's got so many weaknesses and they're so exploitable that it didn't work out very well. Now, I will say one thing that I could have done differently here is if I would have made Drifblim a Terra Captain, I think that would have massively increased its viability this season. And I did heavily consider making it a Terra Captain when I originally made the team. The reason that I didn't do that is because, once again, and I've stated this before in prior draft leagues, I really wanted to have, if I was going to have 2 Terra Captains, I wanted one of them to be physical and one of them to be special. And Gudra was hands down going to be a Terra Captain again, just because it was one of the most high point value and most versatile Pokemon that could be a Terra Captain this season. So that was a no brainer for me. But the other Terra Captain I wanted to be a physical attacker, because obviously Gudra is primarily a special attacker. Drifblim is also a special attacker primarily. So I ended up going with Mudsdale as the other Terra Captain over Drifblim. And I think, yeah, that definitely could have helped Drifblim out. It probably would have made me bring it to a few more games if it was a Terra Captain. But, that just kind of is what it is. The team wasn't really built around Drifblim. It was just, excuse me, that Drifblim was kind of fit into the team toward the end. So, yeah, that just kind of was what it was. Like I said, well, it is a really good Pokemon. Just couldn't really get it to do basically anything for me all season this season. So definitely had to be the LVP, no question there. So But moving along from that, that is going to bring us into our game awards. So this season, I am just going to call out two games that stick out in my mind. One as my favorite game of the season, and another as my least favorite game of the season. So, um, starting with the game this season that I thought was my most favorite, and this was actually a little bit of a difficult decision for me. There were actually several games that came to mind when I was considering which game I was going to advertise as my favorite game for this season. And after a lot of thought, I decided that I think the one that just barely edges out all the other ones has to be the Week 7 game versus Scorpion. And so there's a couple different reasons for this. The biggest reason I would say is because I think of all of my games this season, I think this was the one that I probably A, played the best in, and also B, the one that I would say that my prep probably paid off the most in. So, for those of you who will remember, this wasn't that long ago, just a few weeks. Um, this was the game where I brought the Toxic Spikes Sneasler to battle, and it put in massive work. I think end of turn poison from Toxic Spikes damage ended up taking out virtually the entire team on the opponent's side. So that was a big one, and there's some other stuff that I prepped too, but that was the big one for me. That just bringing something that was completely kind of unexpected, like choice Scarf Sneasler with Toxic Spikes specifically, that ended up winning me the game in more ways than one. Um, yeah, so that was probably the biggest reason. Coupled with, like I said, the fact that I think of all of my games this season, this one I felt like I was just really on point for. I felt like I played a very good game. Um, in this one, I felt like I made a lot of really good predictions, and just I was really on my game in this one. We'll just say so. And obviously, you have to be against a competitor the caliber of Scorpion. As I said, the person who ended up winning the entire league this season, which, as a side note, is another part of the reason why this was my favorite game this season, because it was a victory for me against the coach who would end up winning the entire thing. So that's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, like I said, more so than that, I just feel like I uh, prepared very well and played very well in this game, more so than the other ones, I would say. Um, but yeah, that's also going to then feed us to the other half of the equation, which is my least favorite game of the season. And this one was kind of a no-brainer for me. Unfortunately, it does have to be the semifinals match versus Raymond for a couple of different reasons. Not the least of which is, of course, this was where we were eliminated from the tournament. So obviously, that is the low note, the sour note, as we ended up being eliminated via this loss in this game. But more so than that, looking back on this game and thinking back on this game, I really feel like I did not play this game very well. I felt like made I pretty much, and I know I've said this about games in other seasons past, but this was just one of those games that I felt like I was on the wrong wavelength for pretty much the entire game. I felt like I was just making the wrong reads, the wrong predictions. I was over predicting in the wrong times, and playing. I was playing cautious when I should have been more aggressive, and I was playing aggressive when I should have been more cautious. And I just, I do not feel like I played this game very well at all. I think this is of this entire season. I think this was easily my worst played game this entire season, which is very frustrating because obviously this was arguably the most important game of the entire season, in the semifinals versus a player the caliber of Ray, coach who's won this league twice before. Um, so it was kind of frustrating to me because I felt like I felt like I prepped pretty well for this game. And I felt like if I would have played better, I could have won this game. And that is kind of frustrating for me because I can't say that about a lot of different um, games that I've had in draft leagues that I've lost. Like, for example, the other time, this is going all the way back to the BHDL1, like the other game that I lost and to Ray to be eliminated, I felt like there wasn't a lot that I could have done to save myself from losing that game. I feel like it was almost inevitable that I was going to lose that game. Um, but with this game, I really do feel like that was not the case. I feel like I could have surely won this game had I played better, and that's the frustrating part to me. Is it feels like I could have had if I would have made better predictions, if I would have made better reads, if I would have been more tactical and calculated about what I did and just thought better, played better, that I could have won this game. And yeah, that's kind of the the disappointing part. Um, of course, in addition to this being the game of that we were eliminated from the tournament, um, but yeah, that was kind of the low light for us, unfortunately. But every season has them, of course. It is what it is, and there are the highlights and the lowlights of every season, and that's just part of the experience, I suppose. So, but that is going to go ahead and feed us over to some closing thoughts. So, another season in the books here for the Philadelphia Pidgeys, not only in Draft League, but of course in the Battle Hub Draft League. We've now competed in 4 out of 4 of these seasons. And like I said, my immediate thoughts are well, I am a little disappointed that I didn't go any farther than what I did. I am also happy and proud to have done as well as I did. Like I said, also now to the point that 4 seasons have passed here in the BHDL. The fact that we're, for the most part, able to maintain a very high level of consistency against very difficult competition in this league is definitely a big positive for me. Um, but yeah, obviously a little disappointed that we couldn't go a little bit farther. Like I said, going back to that semifinals game, I do feel like if we had played better, that we could have made it perhaps to the finals. But yeah. Additionally, a couple other things I will say about the league. Once again, I was a commissioner this season here, and that was pretty cool. Once again, being able to be involved in the decision-making processes and trying to make the league the best it can be for not only myself but of course for everybody. More importantly, was pretty cool, and I think myself and the rest of the commissioners team did a very solid job of doing that. So yeah, I do want to shout all of them out, of course. Scorpion, Emerald Miner, Brandon P, and Biridu, the rest of the commissioners team, for all doing a really solid job once again this season for making this league a very competitive and enjoyable experience once again. Um, and yeah, of course, the other thing I want to mention again, as I kind of sort of mentioned before, of course, a big difference this season was the introduction of my captain's recaps, which were basically weekly recap videos where I and a special different guest every week kind of went over all of the matchups of the week. And so, yeah, I thought that was a really fun and neat experience. It was very well received by the player base, and yeah, I was very happy with the way that it turned out and the positive feedback that it received. Albeit it was definitely a lot of work to put that together and do that every single week for the most part. We had a couple weeks off here and there, but yeah, all in all, very positive experience with that, despite the fact that it did take a lot of effort to make it happen. Um, but yeah, like I said, overall pretty positive. Pretty happy with the team that I drafted. That kind of goes without saying because it was very similar to the last season's team. So um, pretty happy overall with that. Pretty happy with the way the team performed, of course, and yeah, like I said, mostly positive. A little disappointed. Um, but yeah, I think the way everything came together worked out very well. I do also want to say a quick thank you to everyone who did compete here in the BHDL4 as well. All of the competitors here give it their all to make this league what it is, very competitive environment. So, yeah, definitely thank you for the participation of all of those coaches. And yeah, we're looking toward the future here at this point. So, what is the future for the captain here and the YouTube channel? Well, as you can probably guess, I'm going to be going back to more casually competitive games as I always do after draft leagues end. Definitely not in a hurry to jump into another draft league. If I do another one, which I am once again kind of on the fence about because, I know I said this last time, but I kind of go through this thing at the end of every draft league season where I have like a kind of like a conundrum in my head about what I want to do in the future because as far as future participation in draft leagues, because it's like I do enjoy doing the draft leagues. They are fun for me. I am a competitive person by nature, so I like to be involved in tournaments and I like to compete. But also, as I have stated before, and is definitely still the case now, it is a lot of effort to continue to compete at the level that we compete at in this league. This league is, while it is a fun and friendly league, it is also a very competitive and very cutthroat league as well too. We have a lot of stuff going on both in the foreground and behind the scenes here in this league with people that tend to make it a very cutthroat and competitive environment as well. So yeah, it's definitely a lot to keep up with for sure. So yeah, so I'm not 100% sure what I want to do in the future as far as that goes. Um, but yeah, I definitely know that I want to make some more, do some more casually competitive content with some new 6v6 singles teams, and then maybe some other stuff, maybe some more fun stuff like multis, um, maybe some VGC. I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, I definitely do want to do more on Scarlet and Violet. Although, as another side note, I will say that Scarlet and Violet is getting to be, it's getting to wear on me a little bit. I think because at this point, if you guys have been watching and keeping track, counting, I should say, I've put out more content on Scarlet and Violet than on any other Pokemon game ever at this point. So it is definitely starting to wear on me, I will say, because we've had Scarlet and Violet for it is just under 2 years now, I believe, since Scarlet and Violet released. So I've been going hard on Scarlet and Violet for almost 2 straight years at this point. So yeah, definitely it's starting to wear me down a little bit. But there is still more I want to do on Scarlet and Violet. There's more Pokemon I want to use, more teams I want to make, and yeah, so yeah, I do definitely have a new singles team loaded up for you guys, and I will be starting to roll some battles out with that pretty soon. And yeah, we'll just kind of take it from there. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure of the direction, whether we'll come back for more draft league in the future, or what we'll do. But we're gonna keep doing stuff, obviously, keep the entertainment flowing because that is what it's all about at the end of the day, is to have fun and have entertainment. Um, but yeah, I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. So that's it. Thanks for watching again, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed. Please hit that like button, leave a comment, and/or subscribe if you did enjoy, and stay tuned for more new videos in the future. And yeah, stay tuned for all that content that I have to come. Also, if you guys have anything that you want to see more of out of me, please feel free to drop that in the comment section as well. If you want to see me do more of one thing or another here on the channel, and I will definitely take that under advisement. But yeah, we definitely have more content to look forward to in the future here on the channel. So yeah, stay tuned for all that. That's it, and we'll see you next time.